get out your pens and notepads, and James and I will run through today's topic, which is basically taking the best script and merging right into the real script when you're in the home, right? So your in-home appointment really begins on the phone when you're setting the appointment, right? Um, if if you're setting the appointment, right there's the minute they get to know you, right? That's your first impression. So doing that is so important. Asking some good questions. We're going to start with, of course, the B, which is be busy, right? So you got to have your activity first and foremost. Make sure that you guys heard, by the way, Jake Van Dusen was just incredible yesterday, right, James?
Absolutely. Definitely,
So
like
much
he was mentioning, it's all part of that. So making sure you do the best script when you're booking the appointment, doing that framework is very important on there. And it all starts there with building rapport. And some of the main things we've heard everybody say, some of our elite producers like Elijah and everyone, staying on the phone. Um, within 5 to 6 minutes when you're booking the appointment. That way they remember you. So when they book that appointment, they're, oh, I have an appointment for them. Because if you're doing it in less than time, your show rate's low. First we need to make sure we're staying on the phone with them. That way they remember you, trying to build rapport with them. If they're at work and they have time, oh, the work breaks because they're answering the phone because they have time 90% of the time. Of course, if they're busy, we can't manage that if they're busy. But the ones that let us, a lot of times it's us rushing off the phone because we got a yes and they say yes to it. So make sure you take advantage of those so we can get solid appointments, build the why. Why is important to them? What are they doing for work? What are they doing basically? They could be at home, maybe it's a day off during the week. We don't know the scenario unless you ask. So it's important to ask questions on that as well. Some key stuff is, hey, what do you do for work? Or what do you do for, asking them, are they working, are they retired, family as well. Um, who are they looking to protect? And then finding out some of the little key stuff, who are they looking to protect in the appointment? So if like asking for the beneficiary, if something did happen to you, who's the house going to go to? Another one is finding out if there's a spouse, because a lot of times our leads don't have the spouse as well. Another one is asking that question, who the beneficiary, you find out the spouse is there, and then making sure, hey, both of them are going to be available at that time. If not, you want to move the time you booked it originally. Um, Another key factor is, who else is on the mortgage? A lot of times, maybe it's not the spouse, but they want to protect, hey, it's the son and the father or something, or daughter, whatever it is. But asking who else is on the mortgage is a great question as well, finding out who that is as well. And then just kind of building that report. Hey, they're available. What are they doing? Are they able to get on Zoom? Just taking your time there. Don't feel rushed because, hey, they take the time to it. Make sure you do that. Staying on a good minute. You don't want to be overdo it either. So that good ratio is at 5 to 6 minutes on the phone. Will get you a good show rate on there. So try to keep him on the phone as possible on that part.
Yeah, I think it's important too to just find the balance there, right? Because you want to make sure that you're on there, get that airtime with them, if you will, to create the rapport. You also don't want to be so friendly that they that you lose your positioning, right? As the doctor, the lawyer, the professional, right? So positioning is important as well. You want to be friendly, you want to ask those questions, but remember, you've also got 20 to 25 families to help this week. And I think that's an important mindset, right, James? Even if you don't yet, you will, and that's the goal. You always want to approach this when you're talking with them with the energy of not rush because you have 20, 25 families to help, but you're getting information that's important and relevant. That's how we build rapport so that they understand, oh, he's serious about helping me and not just selling something, he or she, right? They want to get to know me and my situation. So it's all about working those questions in through the lens of positioning yourself as the expert. Um, and again, most of them, I'm busy, this and that. You always want to let them know you've got 20 to 25 families to help this week, and right there positions you as someone who you know, doesn't have time to mess around, and yet you're taking the time to honor their requests for the coverage.
Yeah, a lot of times when they say they're busy right there and then, they could be busy, at work or whatever the case. Just was like, hey, great, I'm busy too. Hey, I was just seeing if you actually had some time tomorrow or the next day available. So always book it on there as well. And a lot of times, oh, okay, because they think we're asking them all these questions 90% of the time. They think you wanting to talk to them right there and then. So it's very important to let them know, hey, I was actually seeing if we had some time tomorrow or whenever they're available, whenever you book your appointment. So remember, try to keep it closer. The less time, the more on there. So 24 to 48 hours, you want to keep it. Um, when you're
Yeah, and
asking,
if
so
not,
that
if not later that day, right? Like
absolutely, yeah.
that's all. I mean, the further, if you're brand new, just so you know, anything like James said, anything beyond 48 hours is pretty much guaranteed no show, or at least some kind of resurrection. You basically have to do the set all over again. Um, unless it's that one that just really hit that's super serious and they don't care when they meet. You got to set it for, hey, I don't necessarily, I'm actually, and this is what I always tell folks too, always be either you just finished helping a family or you're just about to help a family. Like bookend your appointment set with that mentality. You just got out of an appointment and you're just going in one. So I'm just about to help another family. So I don't have, I don't have the time to um, do this now, and I want to make sure I'm providing you some value in what it is you're looking for. So why don't we? What time are you home from work, right? Or whatever the case may be. If they're retired, when's your next best time? I've got an opening at 4:30 or 6 o'clock. So really do try to corral them into the nearest time frame that you can, without making it sound like you've got all the time in the world. Like the last thing you want to do is say, well, when's good for you, right? Um, Doctor doesn't ask that. Your hair person does not ask when's good for you, right? So you got to book them out months ahead of time. So you got to be that busy. And I know most of you ladies know that because you're like, oh, I got to call him because I need something in October. Well, treat it, vice versa. You be that person. You be that busy person. You be that respected professional, and make sure that you honor your schedule as well as theirs. And again, important note, just bookend it with you just got out of an appointment, you're just about to help a family.
Yeah, and I never agreed to whatever time they say. I always change it like 15, 20, 15, 30 minutes before. So I was like, what time you usually get home from work? Around 3. Hey, I got a 3:30 or 4. What's available for you? I mean,
Yeah,
so
I love
asking
that.
that. So I kind of do that part on that.
And this
Um,
is just a tiny thing on that, James, but I always like to kind of look at my calendar, right? So
oh yeah.
just give it a little bit of a three.
Pause.
Yeah, no, I've actually I'll be helping another family right at 3, but I can get to you at 3:30, right? If a realtor or anyone else you're talking to says that, you automatically have more belief now. Oh, good. They help other people too, right? So incorporate those little things that make such a big difference when you're connecting with people.
Yeah, it's just like a restaurant. Nobody wants to go to the restaurant where nobody's there. You want to go to the one where you see a lot of people going for a reason. So be busy. Say, hey, I actually got another family I'm helping at 3 and 3:30. Can you
Mhm.
do a 4 o'clock or, I could do it before. So now they want to, like, no, no, fill me in then. Or like, oh,
Yeah,
this guy's busy for a reason. So he knows what
yeah.
he's doing. So make sure you're doing that. And then make sure we shouldn't have to remind any of this, but just make sure you're asking all the health questions, all that stuff will help build that time if you don't know what to talk about as well. Getting the height, weight, all that stuff will build that extra, get you build up to that 5 to 6 minutes on there. So make sure you're asking all those quality questions as well. So don't forget those.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to remember, again, positioning here because they don't, and again, you don't want to force people to stay on the phone, right? If they're busy, so are you. And we'll talk about this on the appointment. So don't blow the appointment by, you know, forcing them through certain things. The main thing is that you get them and you set the appointment, right? At the end of the day. But to James's point, you want to get as much information as you can, within reasonable comfort there. So instead of saying, what's your favorite football team? If you just say, hey, can I ask a few quick health questions so I can, do the best job in identifying, what your options are, Now you're building rapport there, right? Now they'll talk about the diabetes, high blood pressure. Oh, I'm okay. How long have you been dealing with that, right? Now you're getting look backs, things like that. So um, I think it's real important to understand that rapport doesn't necessarily, you don't have to be the best conversationalist in the world. You just have to ask quality questions because quality questions builds that professional to customer rapport automatically, right? That now they know they're dealing with someone who knows what they're doing and actually cares to ask questions that would deliver a suitable solution.
Yeah, and then important, like asking on that when you're building that, who are they looking to protect? Start building that why and who was important for them. It's real, why is this important? If you're working MIA leads and digital leads, you could definitely ask him, some quality questions like, who are you looking to protect? Who are the family? Why is this important to you? Because they've proactively filled that out so they know why. So you could ask those quality questions on the if you're working more, a lot of us work CIA leads or call-in leads. These are, reactive, so they're reacting to something they got. So we got to build that why. So, you'd want to do that during the appointment as well. So not kind of asking, well, I filled it out because, hey, it told me to. So you kind of backfire. So don't ask those questions during those. So if you're working CI leads, just kind of say, okay, hey, who are you looking to protect? Some do know. And if those let you, they already know how this is the mortgage I'll pass, yes, yes, that's important to me. Those you could ask, but some of the other ones, hey, we'll go over more, explain what it is, how it works. I mean, everybody has a need. They know they don't have it. They just don't want to. So they're reactive. So you got to build that trust before you could get that why, and you do that during the appointment and you kind of dig into whoever they're looking to protect and why is it, because you find out later on, hey, maybe they're the only ones working and their main concern was it, that, hey, my wife doesn't work, I'm the only one breadwinner. If something happens to me, it's important to me. So trying to find out stuff like that on the CIA leads a little bit more. You got to ask a little bit more quality questions, stuff like that, and
Yeah,
then
so
kind of
James,
just.
we did get on that actually a little more because I think it's such a great point you're making. I know your organization in particular, you guys are really heavy into the call-in lead slows. My experience is more in mail-in and digital, wherein they know what they looked for, right? They for almost especially the online forms, they search for it, right? Or in the mail-ins, they got that letter, they just moved in, it's more than just calling it, right? Because they had to fill it out and walk it to the mailbox. So, guys, to James's point, those kind of, those leads, I mean, a lead, right? You just want to set the appointment. But those leads, um, you do have a little more context to go in and ask those deeper questions, like right off the bat, because they know what they were looking for. The call-in leads are a little more ambiguous, right? Or more of them think they had to fill it out as opposed to they filled it out because they have someone to protect. So James, without being too redundant, I just really want you to hit that home for those that are utilizing call-in leads as their primary lead source. Like what is the difference? What are you saying? What are you not saying? What's the difference between that appointment set?
Yes, I mean, I would hold off on finding out, what were they looking for the coverage for, because they're not. So don't say stuff like that, because it'll bite you in the butt and say, hey, you know what? I was just filling out the letter because it said my house wasn't, protected or whatnot. So you want to ask more questions. Just, hey, if something happens, do we have something in place? How would that look like for your family? Stuff like that. Who's the beneficiary? You can ask them, hey, did something happen to you? Sometimes they do know. You kind of just feel it out, but 90% of the time, they're new. They just bought a home, first time buyers, or they refinance for, loans or, doing the projects. I kind of build more rapport on that and then find out what their need is in the appointment. So a lot of times if it's a loan or equity loan or a HELOC loan, a lot of times, hey, we're doing one or two things. We either paying off some bills or we're doing some remodeling or something. So like, hey, do we got some projects going on? I asked. Oh, paying off some credit cards, paying off some cars, consolidating some loans, whatever they're looking for, um, or doing some remodeling. Hey, I'm redoing the kitchen, the bath as well. Make sure we take notes because that's the important thing to find out what their need was on that and what was important, the reason why they got that loan or if they refinance or whatever the case. I'm trying to lower my bills or whatever the case may be. Like
And look at
perfect.
that, if you're asking those quality questions and getting responses, not that our call is focused on this today, but every Tuesday at noon we have FIF reset training, right? Noon Eastern. Guys, everything that he just mentioned, first of all, anyone with a home loan is most likely a candidate for debt-free life or one of the advanced market solutions. So just know that, and if you're brand new, don't let this be overwhelming, but definitely attend all the training, start being bold, ask good questions because the quality of questions that you're willing to ask are what's going to lead to more and more income, right? You can something that's a $600 APV could just as well be a $3,600 APV, and bring that family so much more value if you're willing to ask these questions, right? Quality questions are so key.
Absolutely. And then next you transition. So now we're in the appointment. So you know that you start off right back where you left off. So if you're working the CI leads, it was like, hey, I know you mentioned last time, you said this was important for you. You're working MID or MIA leads or digital leads. You kind of leave off where you left off that why, what's important to start building that why up again. Hey, you said something happened recently, funeral, somebody passed away, they lost a house. So, getting stories as well, getting them to talk about a story is really great as well. Because that builds up the why even more, because that needs more because they're in their emotions. Um, and then finding out, hey, why is this important? Hey, I'm the only breadwinner. Those, if you let them talk, those start. You just got to find out what it is, and that's it.
Yeah.
And the only way you're gonna find out is by asking questions, on that part. So asking those really and building that rapport, I would say it's very important to build that trust and get them to drop that wall before, because then afterwards, once you build that trust and you got the why high, the need, the feelings, or the emotions. Hey, it doesn't matter what you show them, as long as it's in their price budget, they're going to tell you, hey, I need that. And then
Yeah,
the
that's
bigger the
right.
why is, the more you dig into it, the bigger the APV will be. Because at that point, hey, money's not an option. I want to make sure my family's protected and I'm going to make it happen no matter what.
Yeah, and to that, it's such a great way to build rapport by asking those questions because now we're in the home, right? We did the best, and now we're doing the real, right? What does real stand for? Rapport, right? Emotion, assumption, lock it down. So, um, to do that, first of all, John, oh, jealous you're working outside. It's beautiful this morning. That's pretty awesome. A couple good questions to ask. And these are very simple, but it just kind of gets them thinking and actually present, right? Because just know for most people, when you enter the appointment, they're in sales mode. And by sales mode, I mean anti-sales mode, right? They're ready to do anything to not to knock it down and not get it for the most part, right? And unless again, if you've already established the importance and you feel it and they feel it, great. Now you're on the call to offer their options. But always good, even if you think it's a sure thing on that appointment. I think this is the biggest mistake a lot of newer agents make is when you're good at building rapport, right? On the appointment set, and then you merge in, and now you guys are buddies, and you're like, hey, Bob, or hey, Jennifer, right? It's so easy to assume the sale way too early, right? You always want to have an assumptive mindset, but a lot of folks assume the sale way too early, and they jump right to the options. And sometimes they let the family tell them, no, I just want the options. Oh, okay, I'll give you the don't let them do that to you. Do not let them walk you into the options because that's what they're going to try to do. Nobody wants to feel the pain of imagining what it's like when they pass away. I actually had an in-home back in the day when I started asking the questions because I didn't properly do my role and purpose and say, hey, we're going to be asking some tough questions just so I can make sure that this is something you actually need. If I didn't just say that simple line at role and purpose, and I got to this point and I said, well, what does it look like if you pass away and Jennifer's left behind, and their kid was playing in the living room watching a movie. I mean, he wasn't even paying attention, but she just gasped and started crying and said, "I do not like this. You should not be asking me these questions." I mean, it was a whole thing, right? Because they weren't prepped with role and purpose. So I only tell that little story because that's how adverse a lot of folks are to talking about this stuff and answering questions like that. And you kind of know it subconsciously, which is why most of us in the beginning are tempted to skip the hard questions, right? Because it's uncomfortable. But I promise you, uncomfortable is what opens the vault. If you're not willing to get uncomfortable, you're most likely not going to translate this into something that brings them value. And even if you make the sale, it could likely result in a chargeback because you didn't build the value in the questions, right? So some simple questions you can ask to build rapport, like James was saying, a real simple one is, hey, how long have you been thinking about mortgage protection? Right? And again, James, you may want to counter this with the shadow side of the call-in leads, like maybe like I have the 2 minutes, right? I don't know, but do you have anything to comment on that? But that's one that I would always ask is how. I have a couple more, but I just want to hear your opinion as far as call-ins are. But how long have you been thinking about mortgage protection?
Yeah, I mean, before we even go into that, I usually like to ask them rapport questions of finding out the need for, like, hey, what kind of, do they have family, their kids, they're going to leave it to their kids maybe, but one may live out of town or one's close by, or hey, their sister lives out of town, finding out these things as well, of basically kind of ammunition or something you could use to find out what's their ideal goal of what their preparation for is when the time comes. What are they gonna do? Hey, if you know both of their kids live out of state, they have their own homes, most likely 90% of the time we're probably gonna sell it. And they'll say, you think they'll move in or sell it? Probably sell it. Even if they don't want it, they're just gonna get the equity. So hey, great, perfect. So we don't need the full mortgage. So finding out stuff like that as well, or hey, my sister lives out there, and sometimes they tell you if you ask the questions, they'll tell you, you know what, I'm only over here because my husband wanted to, be out here in Washington and in the wood area. He likes hunting, whatever. If it was to me, I'll move back. They'll tell you. So then, hey, great, we're gonna sell the house, or no, this is our dream home. Hey, we want to do this. This house has been in generations for family. This is important to us. It was passed down. Hey, we want to do everything possible to stay in this house. So,
James,
start
I
building
think
that.
you actually showed this to me, but it was the FORD acronym, right? The FORD, family, occupation, I think it's recreation is the R, and then dream. All
Yeah.
those things you just mentioned about finding what does this even look like for you. Super, super helpful, even vital, I would say. So I love that you said that.
Yeah, hobbies. Hey, do you like hunting? I mean, some people say, "Oh, you like hunting. You like Star Wars." They have a little thing. That's why it's important to do Zoom as well, finding out what they like to do. They have dogs, family, and if you don't know, if you can't build all of it, hey, now, I have one son, Jimmy. He's older. I use Joe's kids, to build all my nephews. Yeah, I bet you they're a handful. Yeah, start building that rapport, get them talking. Is very important. I'm a dog person. What kind of dog you have? Hey, how many you have? How long? You start building that rapport. And if you're on Zoom, hey, can I see them? They're little. That's a great way. They love showing off stuff. I had one show me their whole farm, and they had little cows and little sheep and all this stuff that they just born. So building that rapport in their interests will go a long way, going that extra mile. And then make sure you are giving deposits with before withdrawal. So letting them know yourself, like, hey, all my family knows, hey, I'm in business with my brother, my kids, my son's in this. I where I live, I'm in Arizona, so I have nothing to hide as well. So letting them know where you're at, present here, you're real, is very important. That's why Zoom's going to go a long way to help you do that as well.
Yeah, great point. Guys, that it's so important to start with that because that's where you're really gonna build the stickiness is just, hey, you can even start with, hey, do you mind if I ask you a few questions about your situation, right? And get right down into it. Um, Gosh, again, we used to it's still gratifying on Zoom, but back in the day, you'd walk away with a tray of cookies. They'd ask you to stay for dinner. One guy gave me a leather jacket. He's just like, I just think you'd look good in it. And it's crazy what can happen when you connect with people. So just understand that connection is the most important part of the appointment because they may, especially if it's a bonus lead, they may have already talked to, 10 different agents, right? You want to be the one that they remember and the one that they connect with. Um, I love that Ford. Wait, what does the D stand for again? I didn't hear the D.
I think it's dreams, Mark.
Oh, dreams. Thank you. I love that. What are your dreams? Tell me your get deep. No, I love that. Those are awesome. No, I don't think I have the jacket anymore. Probably in a box somewhere, Rodney. Um, Another great one is so guys, this is a good question after you um
Yeah, so now
OR.
you go
So
into it, before we go to kind of paint the picture. So, okay, you got that first beginning part, you go into there. So we've gone over their budget, we know what they're at. So if you're not doing that, make sure you are, because this is the key point of the next part here. Because now we know we have the whole picture now where hey, we got their financials, do they have any 401k, what their expenses are, what their income is. So now we got the bigger picture. And now we could ask him the quality questions to really get into the why, where this is important. And go ahead, Mark. Let you go first here.
well, one of the things I like to ask to preface that why, right? Because you're gonna start asking some tougher questions now for some, but a real good one that's kind of light and very relatable is who do you know that has a story around this type of protection? Either they had it or they didn't have it, right? What were the upsides and downsides of that? And then just let them think about that for a minute. Again, you don't need to over prompt. Like silence is sometimes it is the best part of every appointment are the moments that you give them to kind of digest what it is you ask, process it, and let them respond. Give them that space to do so. But who do you know that has a story around this type of life insurance? Either they had it or didn't have it, the benefits or the downside of that. And
I
then
think
just
that's
sit
real
with
key,
them.
Mark, there, where you said, just want to bring it back a little bit.
Hmm.
That silence is gold there. A lot of times you want to fill in and we want to answer for the client and start giving them stuff, but getting them to think and actually involve gets them into the conversation and gets them into the feelings. Because if you're just answering for them, they're just agreeing, they're doing something else. But if you ask them a question, they're paying attention to you and they're in the zone, and that's what gets you. Because if you're just answering for them, they could easily get distracted. But if you're asking a question and waiting for them to answer, they're paying attention because they have to answer the question and you're waiting for them. And they're like, oh, yeah. What was the question again? And you know how many times have we
Love
done
that.
that? That's a key factor that, hey, they're not paying attention, they're not focused. But when you ask them a question, it'll get them re-engaged. So make sure you're asking little small questions throughout it to keep them engaged and using their name too is a great question. Hey, so Bob, what does that look like? Oh, Mark, so what does that look like for you? You know, so getting them and using the names, that way they get their attention is, I think, a real good one there.
Yeah, I love that. And again, if it's mail in or digital, what motivated you to fill out this form? Again, call-ins, you're going to establish that a little differently at the beginning, but after you ask them about the upside and the downside, now they're already thinking about how this impacts people for better or for worse. And what motivated you to fill out this letter now they're in the mode and now they're probably going to give you a little more detail about things there. So, and I can't stress enough how important it is, guys. Remember, you go in there, you're talking to a person, right? But you've got to keep in mind that the beneficiary is the bingo here, right? This is about protecting other people. This is something that doesn't come into value until after they're gone. And that's why it's not a color TV, it's not a new car, right? It's nothing like that. I can't believe I just said color TV. It's right. What else is there? So those kind of things are just immediate, like, yeah, I want that and I want it now and I can enjoy it today. This is something that they're not going to be able to necessarily enjoy today outside of what? The peace of mind. that it brings them. And so to bring them peace of mind, we've got to focus on who it is that they're looking to protect. So I think before we go into a couple other questions, it's again important to say so. And again, if you have a couple there, it's obvious, but you just want to ask, like, hey, are we looking to protect each other here? Or is there one of you that's ideally looking for protection over the other, or who are we looking to protect? And you're going to find that out later as James and I get into some of the real meat, the money questions, right? Um, Finances and breakdown and things like that. But just to preface all that, who are you guys looking to protect in this situation, right? Is it each other? Is it the kids? And luckily you've already got all that information because of those great questions that you asked in the beginning about their situation. Um, do you have kids? How many? Any other, family members that this would be, relevant to, things like that. Um, but once you get into that, you can ask, I'm gonna be asking you some tough questions to see if this is even something that you need. So there's a little bit of a takeaway. You have probably already done that in your role and purpose. Hopefully, your role and purpose is essentially going to be letting them know that, hey, I'm we're going to go through health, we're going to go through finances. If we find that this is more of a luxury than a need, then I'll be the first one to let you know that, and I'm off to help my next family. But if for any reason we discover that there is a need, just so you know, most people this is a need. More people find this is a need than not. But they also find that they need a lot less than they think they needed, right? But one of the questions to ask for that takeaway is just, hey, I'm going to ask you some tough questions to see if this is even something you need. So now they're like, oh, we might not need it. Again, you're taking some guard down with some of these, but you're also at the same time making them really think about the desire to get this, because you're not pushing it on them. You're really identifying whether or not they need it.
No, that's
So
good. That's good. And we're not here to help everybody. So remember that. I mean, some people have $1 million policy already in place. Great. Those are not the ones we're looking for to protect. They have something in place, unless it's expiring. Great questions. If they have, a lot of people have life insurance, so don't be afraid to ask that. A lot of people have it, so that's good. Get that they believe in insurance. So guess what? A lot of people just need a little bit more because hey, you know what? A lot of work, a lot of jobs only offer about 100,000, 150. They don't offer that much, or just even 10 times their salary, so which is even worse. Yeah, I mean, that's just for
mhm.
income replacement, and it's not guaranteed. Because a lot of times I ask quality questions in the beginning, because hey, what are you doing for work? Oh, I just did. How long you been doing that for? Oh, I just started. I only got 2 years. Oh, what'd you do before that? Oh, I did this and this. So now, hey, guess what? You've had three different jobs. So now they know, hey, your any benefits through work are not guaranteed because those are going to go away as soon as you switch another job. Construction or whatever the case may be, where they're just contracted, moving different stuff. Truck drivers, they get a lot of truck drivers. Those don't even have anything. Maybe just an accident, small accidental, if that. So a lot of
Mhm.
those are big ones that we get on there a lot of times. So make sure you're asking these questions and then using it. We're using it because we're painting the picture for them, and the better you paint the picture for them, and using names, so asking their kids' names, what's going on here. So hey, you Maggie, little Johnny, what's going to happen to you when you pass away? What does that happen? So later on, we'll kind of go into some quality questions in here and painting that picture is finding out what they use. So I'm writing down. So usually I have like a whole page when I'm taking that down. So you're not going to remember. So make sure you are taking notes throughout the conversation. What their
Yeah.
budget, everything is well. What are they doing? Their kids' names, how old are they? Finding out what's going to go on. Do they have whether their family lives, they're close by, are they going to move in? And then you put it all together and be, hey, look, based on what you told me, this is this. We don't have enough to pay off if, income, you're the primary breadwinner, this happens. So we found a gap. Hey, great, I got a solution for you. This is what we're gonna do. And
I
every
love that.
family's different for them. So that's why we have to go through the whole I guess the whole presentation and finding out their budget and everything, because every family's different of what they have and what they can afford and what they qualify for. And that's what I always tell them, and you just got to kind of go into that.
Yeah, we're getting into the money stuff because that's so important. But you hit on some great points there, James. One is, guys, sometimes they'll, especially if they're older folks, and Graham, I see your question. That's a great one. We'll hit that here too. Um, but guys, sometimes you'll hit people that, let's say even 50s, 60s and above, where they're like, yeah, I already have a policy, it's 100,000, especially if they're older and it's a bigger policy. A lot of times, if you just ask, hey, is that term or permanent, you might find it's a term policy, right? A lot of these older folks have a healthy term policy that's going to term out in about 5 years. And they're like, well, yeah, but then I can keep it, a lot of convertible term, just so you know, the price skyrockets the minute it hits conversion period. So where they're paying like maybe $100 a month, it'll go up to 300 a month, 700 a month. I've seen guys that were worried about it jumping to 1,700 a month for their 50,000 in coverage. So there's a huge opportunity there. Never just assume that because they told you they had life insurance that, okay, I'm going to check that box. Well, what kind is it? How long have you had it? When does it expire, right? If it's a term policy. You heard Jake talk about Jake Van Duzen yesterday talk about the difference between renting and owning insurance, right? So again, well, that'll be like rewind to the beginning of the appointment when you're kind of going over things. Difference between renting and owning is real important to relate to them in terms of permanent versus term. Also, the question that you'll ask to kind of get there is, hey, so instead of saying, do you guys already have something in place, right? Especially if you're talking to a man and a wife, like the guy is usually one with an ego that's going to be like, oh yeah, that we'll be fine. Nobody wants to say that they're not fine, right? And usually the guy is going to take some extra pride in that, even if they don't, right? So yeah, Gina, that's a great one for living benefits. Definitely, that's for added value. When you're selling added value, you can definitely use that as an extra hit. But again, you don't want to say, do you guys already have something in place? You want to say, what do you guys have in place that would protect, and then name the beneficiary when you pass away, right? What do you guys already have in place that would protect Mary when you pass away? Now it's not do you have anything, it's what do you have? And you can drop some hints. 401k, IRA, savings account. Guess what? Now you're positioning for FIF reset just the same. But you're also finding out like what do they have in place? And then say other life insurances. Most people I meet with already have some form of life insurance, but they don't necessarily want it to pay off their biggest liability, which is their mortgage, right? People say they own their home, but they don't own it until it's paid off, right? So they're working toward owning a home. They don't own it by far when they've got a big outstanding mortgage. So what do you guys have in place? Other life insurances, right? And here's something that I learned from if you haven't heard Ashley in the Home, that SoundCloud that Ashley Tarr did way back when, it's still one of the most valuable in-home presentations I've ever heard. It's what built my success early on. But she says other life insurances and life insurance that you own, not work insurance, because that's great to have. It's cheap and it's there, but you don't own that. That's not something that goes with you. I'm talking about things that you own that'll be in place for you guys. Now you've kind of already taken away well, I have insurance through work, like James said. That's great, but it's not yours. HR can change that at any moment, right? And maybe they change it when it's too late for you to get approved for anything else. So you want to take the power out of we already have it through work before they even say I already have it through work by saying, hey, what do you guys have in place that would act as life insurance now when you pass, when, not if, when you pass away? 401k, IRA, savings, other life insurances. Do you guys have life insurance currently? And not work insurance, right? We don't
I
count
got
that.
I got to go on how to ask that one that I
Yeah,
always
please.
use. So like when I ask him for they have an insurance, like, hey, do you got any actual life insurance that you own that's not a benefit through work.
It's a
And so
great one.
that's that way,
We've already
because it's
ruled
just
it
a
out.
benefit. I mean, and that's not guaranteed, like you said. So, and then they know, yeah, usually we don't, and I usually tell them, hey, usually we don't count that. It's great to have extra, more the merrier, I mean, but hey, usually we don't count that because if we move or whatever, that goes away. And they're like, oh, yeah. Or where they do got something, you could use, okay, what is that for? Income replacement. So you name that puppy. So okay, so that's gonna do one thing. Remember, insurance can only do one thing. It's 150,000. Hey, it can either pay off the mortgage or be income replacement. So and you name it, so okay, income replacement. So for the family to pay the bills or whatnot, so they can continue living. Okay, so we need something for the mortgage then. Yes. Boom, you got your yes already. Remember, everybody, they went to the appointment, they agreed to everything, already knowing they have life insurance. They're not stupid. You know what I mean? So don't let them. So make
They
sure
still want
you
to hear
are finding out what that is, name it, and then boom, push it away. So we don't have anything. So we still got that gap.
Love that. And Gina put in the chat, Jordan's follow-up for living benefits add-on. That's a great follow-up question to what we just covered. So then you asked, do you have anything you could lean on if you found yourself incapable of working or diagnosed with a major illness, right? Because now if they do have life insurance, they very well may not have life insurance with living benefits. And so you've got that added value right there that you can provide that they don't already have. And Graham, real quick to answer your question because it is relevant here, and we're going to do Q&A as well. But just like Rodney said, I mean, better than the bank getting it, right? So when they don't know, so what Graham asked is, what's your pivot when they don't have a strong answer to who they're looking to protect? Stuff like, oh, I guess the house to go to my brother. Well, that's when I remind them of how much. So no matter what the appointment is, I always go to Zillow and look up their home, right? Especially on bonus leads. These have been around a while and they already have equity in the home. Or they live in a state like ours in Arizona where things doubled overnight when COVID hit, right? So $300,000 houses are now $700,000 out of nowhere. They've got instant equity. So I always go into that appointment knowing what the equity is. So Graham, you can say like, look, you got $30,000 or you got $300,000 sitting in the walls of this house. There must be someone that you'd rather this go to than the bank because Wells Fargo doesn't need it, right? Um, they might in the future, but you don't have to be their donor, right? So who would you rather this go to? Oftentimes when you remind them that this isn't just some death benefit that, oh, if they have it, great. If they don't, great. This is money that you've saved. I mean, let's say you had $80,000 in your bank account. Would you really not care? Oh, I guess my brother would get it. I mean, is that cool if that just goes anywhere? So you got to look at that money that's trapped in the home right now as the same as you would a trunk full of cash under the bed or money that they have in savings or CDs or their 401k. Of course they care about that. That's their money that they earned, that they saved, right? Where's that stuff going? So this is
Mark,
just as important.
sorry, Mark. I think it's a great opportunity to make a friend, a best friend, right? If they don't have anyone to give it to,
Take my name down. Exactly.
I
you
always use
need
that
my
as a
middle
joke too.
initial.
I
Right?
always use that as a joke too. Like, hey, I'll take it if nobody else. You got nobody. I don't mind. So it's a
Exactly.
great it's a great
They
way
start
to break
thinking
the ice
about
as well.
the 100 people they'd rather give it to than James. They'll find someone.
Exactly. They'll find somebody. Paul Rodney. No, but hey, that's a great point, and it is a nice way to kind of lighten it up and prove a point. But just so you guys know, I've only done this once or twice, but there are companies, I believe Mutual of Omaha, and I think Foresters, but some companies will actually allow you to leave the death benefit to a charity, right? So you could just as well leave the death benefit to a foundation if you really, really don't have anybody. Is there a cause that you're passionate about? Because this money is going to somebody. And especially if we're talking equity protection, we're only talking about protecting a couple months to unlock the door to making a huge impact in somebody's life. So anyway, those are great. Another one to follow that up with is what let's say we have John and Mary there, right? And we'll be sexist for a minute. John's the breadwinner. What would Mary have to do to maintain your current lifestyle when you pass? Again, we're not saying if you pass, when you pass. So what would Mary have to do to maintain your current lifestyle when you pass? Because I guarantee we'll get into numbers now, but when you guys start asking what their financial situation is now and what their financial situation is when John passes, they're never the same. And many times it's drastically different. And that's what we're going to identify next. But you're going to ask, what would Mary have to do to maintain your current lifestyle if you pass? Would she, and you can even throw out some, we'll go over numbers now because this is something I like to ask after showing numbers is, again, what would Mary have to do? Like it looks like there's, about $3,000 deficit here. So what would Mary have to do? Would you go get a new job and then just talk to Mary? Would you go get a new job or move in with a relative, right? So throw in some very real but not very fun scenarios because Mary's got to do something, right? Money's not going to fall out of the sky. But again, that's a little premature. I think first and foremost, James, if you agree, we got to start asking about the money. What do you have coming in and what do you have going out? And
Yeah,
that's
once
where most agents miss out. Is this next part is what most new agents skip because it's uncomfortable, and that's where you're either not going to show enough value, you're not even going to make a sale, you're not even going to help that family. But number two, if you do, it can often result in a chargeback. Almost all chargebacks that I've witnessed in the 10 years I've been here is because people didn't go over the family's finances. So if you're just jumping to who are you looking to protect? Well, here's your options. And you're not showing them, you're not having them write their income down and their outgoing and finding the balance of that, right? So I'll just keep talking to you. I'll give the process, but I don't know if you want to comment on that question first.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So what you want to do, guys, is hey, can you guys please, get out a notepad and a piece of paper. I want you to just write a few things down for me so we can go over this, right? If you're on Zoom, you can actually do it, for them on Excel. However you do it, everybody's got a different style, but I usually just make them get out a notepad and a pen and say, hey, just write John on the left side and Mary on the right side, right? And John, about how much do you have coming in every month, right? And then they'll give you their monthly income. Mary, how about you, right? Mary will give you hers. Maybe they both have jobs. Maybe one has Social Security, the other has jobs, or maybe they're both just living on Social Security, right? Or whatnot. Okay, John, we mentioned 401ks, IRAs, CDs. Do you mind breaking that down a little bit? Like how much do you have currently in those assets, right? Oh, about now you may unlock some real big opportunities for FIF resets, but right now you're just seeing what they have and where it would go, right? Same with Mary. And then what you do is say, okay, your mortgage is X amount, any car payments, right? Now you're going to go over things that are outgoing. Car payments, about how much do you pay for like streaming services, entertainment, date night, things like that. Any credit cards, school loans. What about the kids? Any clubs, club sports, theater, cheerleading, anything like that? Boom, another report type thing. And then once you've got that, say, okay, so it looks like now you've got his income and outcome and the net, right? And you've got her income and outcome and the net. And you have them look at that. So let's say at the end of the day, they've got 8,000 in expenses, right? And John makes, 6,000 and she makes 4,000, right? Well, if John dies, right? There goes that 8,000. So she's only got 4,000 and their expenses are 6,000 as it is. I'm just using arbitrary numbers right now. But now you show that deficit, right? They see the deficit right in front of them. Now Mary gets to see, now they have that kind of oh shit feeling, right? Like this is okay. I see it now. This is, sometimes I say I'm gonna play the ghost of Christmas future here. And if John passes away, cross out that income, what does this look like for Mary? So Mary, what will you have to do to maintain, your current lifestyle, right? Number one, but number two, more importantly, how are we going to bridge the gap to make sure that the mortgage is paid, right? And now you've really created a visual for them as to what their situation looks like if the breadwinner were to pass, as opposed to just telling them. You don't want to tell them anything. You want to ask them questions, and you want to slowly peel the onion away so that the answer is right in front of them, and now they see it, they arrived at it.
I think that's huge right there. Just going back, having them grab a pen and paper, or if you're showing a visual, it's very important. So they got to see some kind of visual, whether it's telling them to write down, grab a pen and paper and write it down and wait, making sure they're doing that. Or if you're showing them on the screen so they could see that and let them know, hey, are we looking at the same thing? If you're showing them on the screen, does that look right? Yes. Okay, perfect. So once you go over the budget, hey, and making sure anything else we can think of, is this what we have left over every month? Before we go into any scenarios, because well, it might be a little bit less. If you ask him that, or it might be okay, so maybe we don't have 2,000 leftovers, more like 1,500. Okay, perfect. Let's put 1,500, you know what I mean? So you know what they have 1,500 left over. You could ask them what they do with that money. Are they investing, doing any kind of, we just spend it because we just moved, building the house, or any appliances, whatever the case may be. But now you know their true budget and asking them, does that look right, or are we missing anything? No, that's what we have left over. So making that reassurance. So now they see the picture and then showing them, hey, so we're gonna take away this, when that time comes, hey, John passes away. Mary, you got 4,000. We got it looks like we have your income's 4,000. We have 8,000 in expenses. You know, how does that make you? If it looks like we can't, let them talk and then just how does that make you feel? What does that look like for you? Say we take away that six. Well, I can't say it. Let them talk. So this is the part where you stay quiet, ask them the question, and let them speak. Don't answer for them. I don't care if it's an awkward 1 minute, 2 minutes. It probably seems that time, but it's probably like 30 seconds, but it's going to be awkward for both of y'all. But having them answer that question is very key because now they're feeling that emotion. Well, I don't like it. And then finding out, hey, well, I can't stay in the house. Okay, okay, what do we have in place then? That we could, how much do we have in the bank? How long can we stay? If we don't put it in a great question, I like to ask him is, what do we have in place right now? Or how much money do we have in the bank? Say we don't put this in place, how long can we stay in the house?
Great question.
And then staying quiet. A lot of times they'll be like, well, maybe about 6 months, 3 months, maybe a month, and then afterwards you do a follow-up question I like to ask is, how does that make you feel? Asking both, and staying quiet, let them both answer. Well, I can't, you mean I want something in place, I can't afford it, I don't know what I'll do. And then asking them like, what would you do in that scenario? Because we are in that scenario right now. If we don't put anything in place, what will we do? And then asking the husband, hey, how does that make you feel? Leaving all this debt, the burden, to your wife, how does that make you feel? And staying quiet. And those key questions are going to build the emotion so high and letting them answer to where the next, well, that's why you're here, James, or that's why you're here, Mark. And I was
So key.
like, yeah, exactly. And then you could follow up by another follow up, so you're saying if something, a great question is if something happens to you, we don't put this in place, we couldn't afford to stay in this house. So you're reassuring, yes, no. And then you ask that, how, if you haven't asked, you could go afterwards, how does that make you feel? Boom. Asking both of them. And then follow up. So we should probably put something in place then. Yes, that's why we're talking to you. You just got a yes to write an application.
Yep.
If you ask those questions in the way you just kind of, you built the why so much that where it doesn't matter. And then just kind of seeing with I know Graham asked a question here when there's maybe, hey, there's not a why they don't have a lot of family. What I usually do is, hey, you know what? If they're healthy, I kind of dig in a little bit more why it's important to get something like with the living benefits. If they would, if they should qualify based on the health questions. Just being because, hey, because you get sick, you can't work, you lost the house. You know what I mean? The income stops, we can't stay in the house. Same scenario. They have the dog. Hey, what are you gonna do? Where's your dog gonna live? You're gonna put him in the street, both they are. What are we doing? I mean, because
Yeah.
we lose that income. So you could build stuff like that. And if they are healthy, hey, you can start looking at something that builds a little more value to them that they'll like, not just the living benefits. If they're young enough, you could do like a return of premium. If they're healthy, you could do an IUL or something. Hey, you know what? Let's grow your wealth in retirement. That's something that'll benefit you while you're living, not just when you pass away. And that'll kind of get them more involved, and I like to do that as well. So, not touching on
Really
your
challenge
here.
yourself, guys. Yeah, that's amazing, James. These are key. I mean, these are key to your success, are asking tough questions. And they're tough because they're uncomfortable for you, maybe even more than it is for them to answer, right? And that is the biggest hurdle, I think, for most new agents, is to just jump in the fire and start getting comfortable asking these questions. The only way to get comfortable with it today, right, is start asking them and position it just like Gloria says in the chat. Pen to paper up front establishes control. So at the beginning of the appointment, guys, we're going to be going over some important stuff to identify, whether or not this is a fit, and if we find that it is, what's the appropriate coverage and what you might qualify for. So I'm going to need you to please get out a notepad and a pen, just so you can kind of follow along with me here. If you could start out the appointment with that, right? Now you've already established yourself as someone who's going to be asking some serious questions, and it's not so serious that you just broke your rapport, right? You're still going to do your forward and build rapport and have fun with them and all that good stuff, right? We meet a lot of great people on these calls, but you're not serving them if you don't ask these questions. And I really want you to take that to heart. Like, you're not doing your job if you're not willing to ask the tough questions. And going over finances is the number one miss that I've seen, in my experience here with a lot of new agents, myself in the beginning, because that was the last thing I wanted to ask them about, because you can almost feel their discomfort the minute you start asking about it. That's good. Those are the places that you need to get to so that they recognize the value in what it is we're serving them with.
Yeah, and we got a couple minutes. If anybody has any questions, we can answer real quick. Got a couple.
Yeah, Danielle's got a great one. You built the why, now they want the full payoff, but it doesn't fit in the budget or qualify health wise. So that's excellent, Danielle. That's something that, guys, if you're there, and I say this with love, but you didn't do your job in the beginning. Role and purpose, right? So role and purpose is, we're going to find the most comfortable fit for your budget that you can qualify for. And I love, love, love. There's a great thing called, well, look up Critical Period by Ben Miller. That's one of my favorite SoundClouds. But he simply says, hey guys, there's three ways that we help folks, right? Number one is full mortgage payoff. Now that's usually for younger, healthier folks. Maybe they're just starting out, and it's also the hardest to qualify for and the most expensive. So I'd say maybe only about 5% of people that I help actually go for full mortgage payoff. And again, you didn't tell them they can't have it. You didn't tell them they can't afford it. You just told them it's the most expensive and the hardest to qualify for,
Yeah, and
right?
if you're getting a lot of pushback on stuff like that, it's maybe something verbiage you're saying and saying, hey, we're gonna get that full mortgage payout for you. We're gonna get that full mortgage payout. Hey, we're gonna pay off the whole mortgage. Hey, we're gonna see what we qualify for. And that's also because it depends. So, like, and you let them know, well, hey, we start off with this, and then before I even show options, I usually go, hey, we do the full mortgage. Maybe we'll probably, if I know I'm going equity protection, I tell them, hey, look, if we even get close to 100,000, they have $300,000 house. Hey, we even get close to 100,000 just because based off our age and some of the health condition, we're probably looking at another mortgage payment, another $700, $800. Based off what we looked at, I don't think that's in your budget. I don't want you paying that. I mean, how do you feel about that? No, I don't want that. So yeah, so usually we do is option two, where we do partial or half, or if you're going into equity protection, hey, you know what? Once we go to 65 and older, what more of my families do I see do is equity protection. What this is this. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Usually more affordable, family friendly. Okay, perfect. Yeah. How long do you need, do we need Mary to stay in the house? 12 months, 9 months, or six? What does it look like? Let's give her at least 12 months. Boom, you're showing options. So you kind
Yeah.
of it's your verbiage. If you're getting that pushback, it's something you're saying that no, we're gonna get the full mortgage payout. So watch what you're saying. We're gonna see what it qualify for, and if you're doing the role and purpose, or if you're doing the real script, It tells you, hey, my job is to try to get you the most amount of coverage at the least premium. Nowhere am I saying we're gonna pay off the full mortgage.
Yeah, real quick on that. I put the track in the chat. So the Ben Miller recording that changed my entire trajectory is that Ben Miller recording. You set it up like that and you're golden. Number one, full mortgage payoff, hardest to qualify, most expensive. Number two, maybe we do partial payoff. I like to do that with working couples. You know, maybe they're each contributing to the mortgage. So if one passes, we just bridge the gap. And the third most popular form of coverage, and this is what most people in your situation do, is mortgage payment protection. I don't call it critical period, call it mortgage payment protection, and that's where we make sure that there's enough payments in the bank to ensure that you get to rescue the equity in the home, right? So again, listen to that recording, make sure you copy it, listen to it, 5 times, and know that to when you're going to start to get a feel for it. You're going to fail forward here, guys. You will fail forward, but you'll start to get to know when you see a lead and you set the appointment if it's already going to be a critical period, right? They've already said they have COPD or whatever. You see their mortgage is way bigger than their age, right? Things like they're 70 and they have a $350,000 mortgage. You're going to start identifying that just through counsel up and practice, practice, practice. But as you start to identify that, you're going to start loading this in the beginning with those 3 options, number one. And number two, again, those people, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to Zillow and I'm finding out what their Zillow estimate is, because 9 times out of 10, they have equity in the home that would satisfy most of what they need to do. And as James mentioned in the beginning, if you're building rapport and asking about their kids, oh, where did they live in town with you there? No, no, Jenny's in Florida and Jimmy's in Oklahoma. Okay. Guys, now you already know if you've got a couple who's in their 60s and 70s, whatever, yeah, it's nice if they had full mortgage payoffs so the one of them can stay in the home. They're most likely going to have to downsize, right? But you don't tell them that. But the fact is, you know that if they both pass away, those kids are not moving back home to take over the home. Nobody needs the home. They need the money in the home. And further, Jimmy, they're going to have to set it up for sale. There might be some fixes. There might be some that Jimmy doesn't want to drive back from California to worry about all this stuff they have to do at the home. They're going to need some money, some comfort level, some breathing room in order to do all that to rescue. Guys, you have $80,000 right here. That's my job. I want to make sure that this goes to Jimmy and Jenny and not to the bank. And this is how we do this, by giving you a number of payments. And last thing that James and I discussed, because I know we got to go here, but last thing that we discussed, it's so important, guys, when you're doing critical period, and we'll do a whole thing on critical period, but this is enough for now, especially if you listen to Ben Miller. Never quote the face amount when you're doing critical period. You're not hiding it, but you don't put it out there in front. So for instance, I helped a woman with she had breast cancer. She was getting engaged. She was 80 years old and she wanted full mortgage payoff. We finally decided that, hey, she just wanted to make sure that he had the equity in the home after they get married. So I got her 6 months worth of coverage. It was maybe, I don't know, it wasn't much. It was maybe like a $4 or $5,000 policy. But if I told her, hey, I'm going to get you $5,000 for $280 a month, she'd run for the hills. It doesn't make any sense to anybody, right? Because they're looking at, wow, that's expensive money. What we're providing value here is time. It's not how much it is, it's what it does. Again, it's not how much it is, it's what it does. So what does it do? It buys him, her beneficiary, 6 months to make sure that he doesn't have to come out of pocket to make any mortgage payments and rescue the equity in the home, get it sold and keep that money. That's the death benefit. The death benefit's the equity. Your job is to just give them enough time, right? So you quote it in terms of, hey, we can get you 6 months worth of mortgage payments for X, 12 months worth of mortgage payments for Y, or 18 months for Z. That is how you quote that. Because if you're quoting $6,000 death benefit for $230 a month, it's probably not going to go over well, right? They can do the math. You've already gone over what the mortgage payment is. So I think that was worth going over for. James, anything on that?
Yeah, that was good. And just, painting that picture, letting him know, like, hey, that 6 months, it's going to be enough time that way they could get that 80,000. So if you already know the equity, that 80,000 is going to go to John and we're going to protect the equity. So make
Yeah.
sure you're painting that picture for them and letting them know what that 6 months is going to do. Get them that 80,000 versus, hey, we lose equity, they shortcut it or whatever, they auction it out. Maybe they'll get 50,000 or less. We want to protect them, get the full 80, if not more, because that value is only going up. All right, guys. Well, that's all we got. See y'all next time. Hope y'all can value
Thanks,
some.
you guys.